Parallelograms. Let me get this set up so we're ready to go. All right, so you want to take notes, and we're going to talk about what is a parallelogram. And you need to know how to spell these. So this is P-A-R-A-L-L-E-L-O-G-R-A-M, parallelogram. Well, a parallelogram is a four-sided figure that is also called quadrilateral. It's a four-sided figure that's also called a quadrilateral. A parallelogram is a four-sided figure. It has a special, unique characteristic that makes it a parallelogram because there's all kinds of quadrilaterals. There's rhombus, there's a square, there's a rectangle. Those are all four-sided figures, and those are all quadrilaterals. But a parallelogram has a special characteristic. A parallelogram has two sets of parallel sides. And what are parallel sides? If we extended this in all the directions, then they would never intersect. So parallel lines are always the same distance apart. You got to remember that. So here we go. Here's a parallelogram, and we have to identify the two sets or the two pairs of parallel sides. Well, they're directly across from each other. And here's how you note them. Because you just don't look at it, you have to be shown it's a parallelogram unless it tells you this is a parallelogram. But you'll see notches. If you see one notch opposite of each other, they're telling you those two lines are parallel. If we've used one notch here to show that these two sides are parallel, we're going to use two notches. So that's how you organize your figures. So people know this side and this side is parallel, and these two sides are parallel. This dotted line coming down is showing what with the square? It's telling you that the interior angle is a what? A right angle, which is perpendicular. It's going to intersect it exactly at 90 degrees. Okay, that gives us, how do you find the area? Now we're not doing the perimeter, we're doing the area of the parallelogram. We want to know what everything in here measures. Okay, what everything in here measures. So here's a problem. Here I have that the interior height, or the height of the parallelogram is 11 inches, and the base is 7 inches. Well, if this is 7 inches, and this is parallel to this, then this one must be what? 7 inches. We don't know the length of these two. These are slanted lines. These are not the height of the parallelogram. The height is always found on the interior angle typically. This is the height. You look for the 90-degree angle to find the height of the parallelogram because that's what you use in your formula. You don't use the slanted lines. So what's the area of a parallelogram? Well, it's just like a rectangle. A equals base times height. Wait, that just came out. My board is not working the best. So let's try it again. A equals B times H, where B is the base and H is the height. The base forms one set of parallel sides as part of one of the parallel sides. The height is always formed by the 90-degree angle. You look for the 90-degree angle and that gives you the height. Because sometimes there are going to be numbers over here. So let's see what happens. You always write the formula. A equals base times height. That's the same thing as a rectangle. I'll show you something in class tomorrow that's kind of cool with that. Why you use the same formula as you do a rectangle or a square. So we're going to plug in, this is the base because it forms one of the parallel sides, and this is the height because it forms a 90-degree angle. So I simply write A equals B times H, and then area equals 11 times 7, well, we'll put 7 times 11 because the base is 7. And we get A equals 77. That's the area of the parallelogram. But we're not done because it's area and we have to put the units. So we're going this way and making squares. So it's squared inches. Okay? So that's how you find the area of a parallelogram. Well, what if I give you something that looks like this and said find the area of that parallelogram? Where you have 7 feet on the interior, which is the height because it forms a right angle. Then you have these notches. Now, this is interesting. Which one's the base? It's not the 8 feet because the height, the perpendicular line, is the one that connects the base. This is not a base. It's just a parallel side. And how do you know which one to use? Whichever pair of sides that are parallel, that are connected with the height, with the perpendicular line, is always your base. This is not the height. There's no right angle. This is not the base because it's not connected by the right triangle or the perpendicular line. So we write A equals base times height. A equals, well, the base is 7 and the height is 7. So A equals 49 feet squared. The 8 would be if I wanted to know the perimeter. If I said, what's the perimeter of this? Then if this is 7, then this is 7. Because they're parallel, they're opposite, they're the same measurement. If this is 8, then this has to be 8. And then if I said, what's the area and the perimeter? You would just add up the 4. You'd have 16 plus 14, which is 40 feet. You got to know how to do that. That'll be a test question. Well, what happens if they give you the area of the parallelogram, kind of like we did the circumference, and they want to know the height of the base? Well, here you go. A equals 91 feet squared. The height is 7 feet because it's formed by a right angle, and the base is x. So you start off by writing A equals base times height. You fill in what you know. You know the area is 91, so you put it in place of the A. You're substituting. The B is x, and the height is 7. All right. If I multiply x times 7 to get 91, how do I undo that? I divide both sides by 7. Remember, show a fraction. And then we get x equals, let me get my calculator. And we say 91 divided by 7 is 13. So 13 feet is my base. 13 feet is my base. You got that? That's all you do. So you divide both sides by 7, and now we know that the base is 13 feet. To check it, you would say, well, how do I find the area? I multiply base times height. 13 times 7 is 91, so I did it correctly. If I asked you to find the height, you do the same thing. I give you the base, you just plug it in, and put the area in, and then just divide both sides. I think that's it. So I want you to write down 2 things that you've learned and 1 question, and I'll see you in class tomorrow. Let me turn this off, this camera.